Grab your stock images, it's time to defend your property against entitled people. The manager of a restaurant is doing their job by enforcing the law regarding alcohol, but these entitled parents are determined to find a way to get around it. A man keeps illegally parking on this person's driveway. What hilarious plan does this person have to pay them back for their entitlement? There is nothing more annoying than someone cutting in front of you in line, right? What about when they cut in front of you and then can't find the change for what they want to purchase? What does this person do in response? You'll only find out by watching this episode of VoiceyHere's Entitled Parents, featuring entitled people. This story was called Wine All You Like. I'm not giving your 15-year-old a glass of wine. Before I got into business and reporting analysis, I was a waitress for about 8 years. I have far too many stories, but this one is one of my faves. Background: I was working at a gastropub as a supervisor. I had a personal alcohol license. In the UK, you have to have someone on site with one, and we have to abide by certain laws, as well as the premises license, which can also dictate what we can or cannot do. Failure to do so can mean the loss of your license, the premises license, and a personal fine if you're caught. Also, you can lose your job. The issue is, these two can sometimes contradict one another. This is important later. We had a family come in one evening wanting dinner. One of the two children was 15 or 16. She will be known as EK. Mother is EM, father is ED. MS is my savior. Me is your glorious cynical host. I sat the family down, told them the specials, and asked them what they'd like to drink. EM orders a lime and soda. The ED orders a pint of lager, and EK orders a small glass of rose wine. We had a challenge 25 policy in place, which meant if you looked younger than 25, we would ask you for your ID. I ID'd EK, which is where this all starts. You don't need to see her ID. Unfortunately, it's our policy to ID anyone who looks younger than 25, which your daughter does. She's 16, which by law allows her a small glass of wine. You remember when I said about contradictions between law and license? This was one of them. By UK law, you are allowed to have a small glass of wine or half a pint of lager with a meal if you are with a parent or guardian and are 16 or 17. Most premises licenses prohibit this, as it is harder to prove if you are 16 or 17, as you don't go out with ID usually. The pub I worked had this in their license, so it didn't matter if she was 16, she wouldn't be allowed it. I'm very sorry, but I still cannot give her the wine, as it is prohibited in our license to sell alcohol to her. We have a great line of mocktails if she'd prefer. No, she'll have the wine. No, I will not be selling her any wine, as it could cost me my job, and this place could be shut down if an inspector came in and ID'd her. Not all EPs have to shout to be entitled. Sometimes it's the calm, not my problem attitude that makes an EP what they are. That was this woman. I don't care about that. Just bring her what she asked for.
I want wine. They said I could have it and I want it.
I knew where this was going. I had to stand my ground. I'm sorry, but I cannot sell you any wine. Is there anything else you'd like? EM then starts complaining to her husband, exasperated that we wouldn't bring her darling girl a glass of wine. Look, it's her birthday. Is there any way you could overlook it this once? His words were nice, but his tone was expectant that I'd relent. No, sorry.
Fine.
She throws her hands up in exasperation.
You've made me want a glass of wine now. I'll have one instead. She'll have Coke.
Thank you. Sorry again. Just to reiterate that the wine is for you and not her, I may have to ask you to leave if she's seen drinking the wine.
Whatever.
So off I go to make the drinks. I come back and take their food order. I put it through to the kitchen and ask one of my members of staff to keep an eye on them while I went for a quick break. I'd been on shift 12 hours at this point, with no break, and needed to put my feet up for a few moments. I came back from my break to see the EK drinking the wine and the EM drinking the Coke. I was ticked. I started walking over there. EM noticed me and I tried to switch back the glasses. Hi there folks. Now I don't want to cause a scene, but I did say when taking your drink order that EK couldn't drink wine on the premises, which you indicated you understood what the consequences of that may be.
I don't remember that.
She had a sneer on her face that said, "And what are you gonna do?" If she had been decent, I would have just given them another warning. Because she was a hassle, I took another route. Whether you remember or not, I remember saying it. Unfortunately, because of this infraction of our premises license, I have the right to ask you to pay for your food and drink and leave. This is when ED blew up. "No, we're not leaving, and I refuse to pay. How dare you treat us like this? I demand to speak to the manager." "I am the manager tonight, so you'll have to deal with me. Please calm down, sir, as you're disturbing other guests." More and more people had begun viewing our little spectacle. None more so than the elderly gentleman, MS, and his son, who were on the next table. "How dare you, young man? I have heard enough. This young lady explained that your daughter could not have a glass of wine, and you defied that by putting her job and this place at risk for your own selfishness." "Get lost, old man. If I wanted a lecture, I'd call my own dad." "Sir, if you don't calm down, I will have no choice but to have you forcibly removed. By the police, if necessary." This made ED balk. EM wasn't having any of it.
"We are not leaving. We'll go in our own time, and you will bring us the rest of the bottle of wine as compensation for your rudeness."
I laughed at that. To think I would do that was ridiculous and delusional to say the least. "No, I'm sorry. I'm done being patient. Please pay and leave. I'll have your food packed up for you to go." I reached for EK's plate first, which is when ED grabbed my wrist and squeezed until it hurt. "Don't you touch that." A bit scared at this point, I struggled with what to say until he yelled in pain. The old man had told my employee to call the police and had struck ED with his cane to get him to release my arm. His son had taken up beside him, and there were a few people shouting at them to just go. About 10 minutes later, 2 officers arrived and took my statement. The family obviously told a different story, which was proven false by the CCTV and its audio. The father was charged with endangerment of a minor. EK was actually 15, not 16. ABH, I had a nasty bruise, and resisting arrest. He tried to get out of the officer's grip. I think he got fines and community service. EM was cautioned and was told to pay for the food and any other costs incurred by her and her partner. I got a well-earned day off. The thing is, if they'd had a nice meal at home, it would have been fine, as it's legal to drink alcohol in a private home from age 5. EK could have had a whole bottle of rose if she wanted. I'm not sure if these types of people just don't go out in public much, or is it when they go out in public, they're just always like this. You can understand the family that if it's her birthday and they want to make it special and maybe they promised her a glass of wine, they might be a bit fussy and push for it. But the reality is, if that's the conditions of the license, there's nothing they can do. Even if they wanted to, they can't. It's not worth risking their business just for one customer. And like they said, a much more obvious solution to this is just have a nice meal at home. If having the wine was so important to you, why would you put yourself in a position where it's not likely to happen, where you're gonna have to constantly fight to try and make it happen? If your point is to have a nice evening out, well, you completely failed. This story was called "Family Assume My Driveway is a Free Parking Spot." This happened to me a few years ago. I had recently moved to the north of Scotland, where I now live, and was staying with my mum and stepdad while getting a house sorted. They went away on holiday for a fortnight, so missed all the fun. I came home from work one afternoon, started at 0400 and finished at 13:30, to find a car blocking the driveway into my house. Having a small car, I parked at the top of the drive, blocking them in. My parents live out in the sticks and on a single track road, so I couldn't leave my car where it was, because I would have been blocking the road. After an hour, I saw someone approaching the driveway and taking pictures of my car. I went out and confronted them, and the conversation went like this. "Why are you taking pictures of my car?"
"Because you parked illegally and blocking my car in. I'm going to call the police if you don't move your car from my neighbor drive."
This is clearly my parents' driveway. Did you not think it was odd having to walk out of someone's garden to get into the neighbor's?
"Well, it wasn't very clear, so you can move so I can get out."
So I get my keys and move, then park my car and think nothing of it. Next morning, I leave for work, and once again, I find the same car parked in my parents' driveway. This time, I go knock on my neighbor's door and ask him to get his friend to shift it, only for my neighbor to ask, "What friend?" I pointed to the car and told him what had happened yesterday. Turns out the prat wasn't his friend at all, but liked to walk around the woodland path near our houses. 20 minutes later, he finally appears, smirks and moves before saying,
"I'll be parking here tomorrow too."
So once again I go to work at stupid o'clock, and when I get back, lo and behold, the prat is parked there again. This time, I decided to teach him a lesson. I had 2 days off, so I went to the shops and got some shopping, and a rather large amount of alcohol. Got home, parked as close to his car as I could, making sure I was safely off the road. I went inside, made some dinner, and started drinking. About an hour later, there's a banging on the door. Yes?
"Move your car, it's blocking me in, and my family want to go home."
I look out and there's his rather embarrassed looking family sitting in their car. "Sorry, I can't," as I took another drink from my cider. Been drinking for a couple of hours, probably over the limit, so I don't want to risk it.
"What? Why are you drinking when you knew I'd be wanting to move my car?"
I'm off for the next 2 days, so I fancied a drink.
"I'm calling the frickin' police!"
You do that. Before shutting the door and popping into the lounge to watch TV, while also watching them through the window. About 2 hours, apparently the police had trouble finding my house. Later, the police arrive and speak to EP before they knock on my door. "Yes, officers, how can I help?" "Why are you stopping EP from leaving?" So I began explaining the events of the previous days and mentioned how I told him he couldn't park here. I also explained that I had been drinking and was probably over the limit, so I couldn't risk moving my car. Police officer 1 and 2 agreed that I was correct not to drive while intoxicated. They then asked what insurance I had. I pointed out that it was named driver only, basically means that only people whose name is on the insurance can drive my car, so they couldn't move it for me.
"Oh come on, just make him move his car."
"Just going to get the breathalyzer. Blow into this, please. You're about 2 times the legal limit, so I'm sorry, but you can't move your car."
"Sorry, but he's over the limit. You'll have to leave your car here and come back tomorrow."
"What? But how are we meant to get home?"
"Bus stop about 2 miles down that road. You'll get the bus to the city at this time, or the other town at this time."
"But the bus doesn't go anywhere near where we live."
"We can call you a taxi if you want, but you'll need to pay for it."
"He did this deliberately."
Yup. Fast forward to the next day. The police arrive with him in their car, and before they ask me to move my car, they decided to have some fun. "We just want to check you with the breathalyzer again." Big deep breath. EP looking more and more worried.
"You're fine. Can you move your car, please?"
"Of course, officers." Police officer 1 to EP. "Don't park your car here again." EP couldn't even look at me. Just got into his car and drove off. Later that day I decided to build a gate for my parents. Now see, this is high level IQ stuff here, because most people, yeah, they would block them in with the car, but then what excuse do you have to not move your car, except for just not wanting to? Maybe you don't answer the door, you pretend like you're asleep or something, and when the police officers came, they tried to compel them to move the car. But legally, they can't move the car, or compel them to move the car, if they're intoxicated. So not only did they get to chill out and have a nice evening, they also had the perfect excuse to not have to move the car. We do love when our entitled people stories have a twist of revenge. This story was called "Dude Cuts in Front of Me, Then Gets Mad When I Pay Before Him." I was coming home from class in the evening, right in the middle of rush hour. Unfortunately, my route home involves going to the busiest subway station in the city. It was packed, but I had a long day and really wanted a chocolate bar, so I went to the coffee, news, candy stand, which is just as busy as the station itself. I go there a lot because I have a chocolate addiction. I went to the candy counter and got my sweet, sweet chocolate. I was standing behind a woman buying coffee when this entitled jerk steps right in front of me. I had been standing there for a good minute before he showed up. It wasn't like I was just getting in line and he beat me. EA didn't even acknowledge me. He had big can headphones on too. I was annoyed, but also way too tired for this crap. Whatever, he just had some juice. Wouldn't take too long, right? Nope. The woman left and EA got to the front. Conversation with cashier as follows.
Hey, give me a patty.
Okay, what kind? EA was not paying attention. What kind would you like? EA was lost in his own little world, I guess. Sir?
What?
What kind of patty would you like?
Oh, mild.
Alright, with the juice that'll be this much. I don't remember the exact price, it was something over $6. EA then took a crap ton of change out of his pocket, like tons of nickels and quarters, with only a few dollar coins. I internally groaned. I just wanted a quick candy bar before going home, and numbnuts here had to sort through his dragon's hoard of change, after holding me up with his zone out. Luckily, the cashier was nice, so she was willing to ring me up while waiting for EA. He told me my candy was $1.75, which I already knew, so I gave him my prepaid toonie, Canadian $2 coin, while EA was still sorting. This was usual, by the way. The store is grungy and informal. No barcodes are ever scanned. Everyone knows the prices off by heart, so the cashiers usually do a few transactions at once. I knew this well, being a frequent customer. EA obviously didn't.
Hey, wait for me to pay.
What?
I was here first. You wait your turn. I waited for the person in front of me. Now you wait. Got it?
I was kinda just stunned. Well, you cut in front of me first. So excuse me, I just want my chocolate. Cashier gave me my change as well as an apologetic look. I took my money and left. I've got pretty bad anxiety, so that confrontation left me a bit shaken. I stood near the wall, eating my candy, praying EA didn't come find me to yell at me some more. Looking back, I wish I had yelled at him more, but I was so tired and just wanted my darn chocolate, plus my anxiety probably would have gotten even worse. I wish I had the strength of mind to call that stuck-up douche nozzle out. We get really offended when somebody pushes in line because it goes against a social law. It's actually something that really fascinates me. I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but there's no law that regulates you have to line up in front of a store. It's just part of a spontaneous order that we do as human beings. Same thing when we let people merge in front of traffic, hoping that others will do the same for us. So when somebody goes against those social laws we create for ourselves to create order, they immediately become an outcast. Honestly, I feel like if the server had seen that, they probably should have said, no, I'm not going to serve you, you pushed in, I'm going to serve this person instead. It's always nice when the cashier does catch somebody doing that, but unfortunately, it doesn't always happen. At least our hero got their chocolate. If you don't win against an entitled person, at least you can endure through it with chocolate. If you'd like your story to be narrated by me, don't forget to visit the subreddit r/VoiceyHere, link below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.